The Dog and Deuce Show is produced by Dymar Productions in association with Studio B Productions.
Welcome to Utah's longest-running sports podcast. This is Dog and Deuce. Every week, we are right here to take a deep dive into the Jazz, the Utes, the Cougars, the Aggies, and everything in between. On this episode, we've got our bracket set, we've called in sick to work, and we're ready for 4 straight days of tournament basketball. Plus, Larry Krystkowiak is out at Utah. Can Mark Harlan hire a replacement that will finally get the Runnin Utes back to the glory days? But first, it's all about the Utah Jazz. They got a win at Boston, but did you see enough to feel optimistic again? We'll give our take and we'll break down this week's games. We've got all that and a whole lot more coming your way on Dog and Deuce number 360.
From Studio B in Salt Lake City, this is Dog and Deuce. Join the conversation at doganddeuce.com or send an email to doganddeuce@gmail.com.
Thank you for this episode 360 of the Dog and Deuce Show. If you want to know more, and I sure hope you do, follow along with the show notes at doganddeuce.com.
You can watch this show all weekend long on K-Powder TV or Backcountry TV, or listen wherever you get your favorite podcasts. We would love to hear from you. Send us an email to doganddeuce@gmail.com. I'm Dog.
And I'm Deuce.
And this is episode 360 of Dog and Deuce. If you are watching us on Twitter, thank you. Give us a like. Why don't you subscribe? And there's a little bell button that you got to tap, and that'll let you know every time we have a new show up on the YouTube. A lot of people these days are watching or listening to podcasts on YouTube. So figured this year we're gonna really embrace that. And I'm so old school. I'm an old person. So, and we've been doing this show for 10 years. So I'm really stuck in the old days, and I have a hard time transitioning as the technology grows and the audience changes. But I'm trying to embrace my inner child, my inner, what is this generation? It's Gen Y? Gen Z.
Z, X, Y, Z, I don't know.
I'm trying to embrace their habits, and we're trying to go to them now. So if I know a lot of people have found us on YouTube, so thank you. Subscribe and like and comment and let us know what you think of the show. We would love that. If you do want to subscribe to us on YouTube, we are youtube.com/DD on sports. So hit us up there. Lots of Utah Jazz talk today, man. And we're kind of at a weird spot for the Jazz, and we'll get into that. But first, what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about our 2021 Dog and Deuce Bracket Tournament that we got going on. We actually had quite a few people sign up. Unfortunately, we had a few dropouts who missed the deadline, but that's okay. We have a pretty good field. I think it's a perfect amount because if you're in the tournament, there's a good chance, man. I've never won. Have you ever won a bracket before?
Oh yeah.
Of course you have. Of course,
I gotta win I may not beat you in football, but bracket time, that's my time to shine.
It is your time to shine.
Except for this year.
My problem is I always get in brackets that are like just giant, tons of people, which is super fun because then you have a lot more interaction, but the chances of winning aren't good. I think the field we have, I think, is perfect. I think we have 13 people, I want to say. We had upwards of 20, but like I said, a bunch of people dropped out, missed the deadline. If you are in it, though, get your brackets in. If you're listening this today, which is Thursday, March 18th, 2021, get your brackets in. They will lock automatically. CBS Sports will lock it Friday, which is tomorrow at 8 a.m. Mountain Time. So get that done, man. Get it done. Woo. Get your brackets in. We got some cool stuff going on, and then I promise we're going to get to the Jazz talk. But we got we're still working on what the prize is going to be. But the winner will definitely get a trophy. The loser's going to get a fun trophy too that I've scouted out, and we also have what we're going to call the Dog and Deuce Wall of Fame, and it's going to go. You see my wonderful football trophy here that I've won in our football contest that I've won every year we've been doing this show. This trophy's been sitting back here ever since football season ended, right behind me if you're watching on TV or on YouTube. We're going to replace this. Well, I'll find another spot for it on our set here. But we're going to replace this with another trophy that I love this trophy. It's awesome. It's got a bunch of spots for engravings. Your name is going to go on. If you win our tournament, your name is going to go on our wall of fame, which is our trophy that we're going to have. It's super sweet. And it will be there for all time. And each year, the winner will get their name engraved on that. And you can engrave whatever you want. So,
Get creative with it.
You can get creative with it. You can have a dig at us. You can have some funny names. It'll be fun. So, again, there will also be a prize for the winner, and we're working on that. But I promise you'll get that as well. So you get a trophy, a prize, and you get the Wall of Fame. So if you missed it this year, get on this next year. Maybe we'll do a football one this year too. We'll figure it out. We're going to do some fun stuff. We got some stuff planned. So let me put this back. All right. Let's talk Utah Jazz basketball. Now, I'm confused, man. I'm confused because they were playing so well. They went through a slump, which is to be expected, honestly. There's no team that goes unscathed throughout the entire season. And honestly, the clip at which they were winning earlier on is not sustainable, obviously. There's just no way you can keep winning at that rate. So they went through a little slump. They bounced back against Boston. Both you and I were a little worried about this game. But, I mean, it wasn't pretty at times, but they managed to find a way to win when things looked like they might go south. So, James, Mr. James Dyer, how are you feeling about the Jazz after specifically the Boston game?
You know, much like the same, there's still a lot to be proven, right? But that is a positive step in the right direction. Best I can tell. I mean, we've been calling for it since we had Brian Priest on. You know, like we need to see some tough, grinded out games that are physical against good teams. And, you know, Boston has definitely been on the rise, so to speak, after their early season struggles. And it was good to see. I liked it. You know, I saw Jaylen Brown tweet out that should be a tech when Donovan gave him a little smack. And I was like, man, probably he's not. I don't know that he's wrong necessarily, because if someone did that to Donovan, can you even imagine what Utah Jazz Twitter would go off on?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But every Jazz fan I saw calling him weak. So I just want to kind of point out.
But wait, but Jaylen Brown.
Be consistent here.
Jaylen Brown he was being a smart ass though. He deserved a T then too.
No, Donovan's was definitely more than his. No question. And I like it. I'm not sad. I wouldn't care if he got a technical. Like, because Jaylen Brown was being, in my opinion, I know they all give each other the butt tap, but that was kind of like a smart ass one. Yeah. Like, I got the better of you. It probably should have been an offensive foul. And so Donovan, firing back, if you will, with a little smack across the chest. No problem. In fact, I kind of wish he would have had a T, so it could be recognized, and instead of having Jaylen Brown call him out on Twitter. And I don't know if Donovan's responded to it. Probably not, because he doesn't want to get fined or has good common sense. But Jazz Nation sure did. And I thought their responses were a little ridiculous, because if someone did that to Donovan or Rudy, I mean, come on, the house would be on fire. Like, be honest, right? Like, Jazz Nation would lose it. So, but anyway, I liked the fire. I mean, the whole point of what I was getting at was the unwillingness to back down, the willingness to stand up, which at times we felt, especially because of, as you indicated, the extremely high clip winning rate that they were on throughout the first half of the season. There haven't been many of those moments. And in the moments in the past, even though they played well against the 76ers, they resulted in losses, right? And so to see one result in a win against a hard-fought team who's playing well over the last 5 or 6 game stretch it allows me to know they got that in them. Now we got to see it as we're going down the stretch more often than not.
Yeah. It was good, because honestly, you kind of, it felt different to me, and maybe it was just me looking at it, I don't know, from a biased perspective, but it felt like a different game from the get-go. Now, as they were going, I mean, it didn't feel like there was any point where they just totally collapsed. They were definitely not back to the old Jazz that we've seen earlier on in the season. They weren't close to that. but they weren't falling apart at moments. And obviously, every team's going to go on a run in a game. It just happens. It doesn't matter. You can be up 50. A team's going to go on a 8-2 run or a 10-0 run or something like that, and closed it within 40. That's what happens within a game. And when it happened, when the Celtics would go on a run, the Jazz didn't fall apart. They got back to doing what they did best. Now, towards the end of the game, I was a little concerned. Donovan Mitchell, he needs to not try and do everything. And I don't like the whole idea that, he just plays hero ball towards the end of the game. That's what the team wants to do. Like, that's what Quinn has decided to do. I don't agree with it. I think they should continue to run their offense because that's what got him to that position in the first place. But I understand. But Donovan, he's not been in a lot of close games this year. So he's got to figure out how to be more efficient and more careful with the ball in those situations. And that will come. That will come back to him. He just hasn't had to do it that much this year. So when he's got Marcus Smart on him and he keeps dribbling backwards and he's so close to half court, that's dangerous territory. You can't do that, man. You've got Mike Conley is right there. Mike Conley can run the offense. I would actually like to see the offense run through him and maybe get Donovan an open look, maybe pull a Rip Hamilton type thing and have him come off a screen or something and get an open look, or run the pick and roll because the Jazz are so good at the pick and roll. So to me, there are other options than dribbling yourself into trouble. So I was a little concerned there. But in the end, the Jazz, they got it together. They figured it out and they got it together.
It's funny. I was going to come on here, especially after the Warriors game, looking for where's the intensity, right? I was going to say, man, I need Rudy Gobert to send a water bottle flying. Where's that? I mean, I don't tell a man how to spend his money, and I know that costs him some good coin, but I need to at least fill it because it wasn't there, on Sunday versus the Warriors. But then Donovan gave the smack across Jaylen Brown's chest. And now it felt like, not that is ever a turning point, but it was a moment where it was like, look, dude, I'm not going to let you do whatever you want to me. And that's kind of the Rudy Goberts of the past. So Donovan's taking that mantle, but I hear you. I mean, it's very Damian Lillard-esque what he's trying to do when he's backing up to sort of line him up to decide what he's going to do. And Donovan he's played well this year, but he hasn't been efficient as far as statistically, stats go. He's played well, but he hasn't been as efficient as he was last year, and he hasn't had to. I mean, the results speak for themselves. But part of that is, I think you're right, his sort of trying to take the difficult shot in the waning seconds of not just a game, of a shot clock, where there might be a more viable option, but he's getting a lot of assists as well. But I feel like that's where a lot of his bad shots come from. In response to you, Donovan did send out a tweet that's not hero ball. That's just called basketball. True. I don't know if you saw that. He must be hearing or watching someone who has a very similar narrative. I just thought that was interesting. Well,
I know Ben Anderson asked him about the hero ball thing.
Oh, okay.
So that's probably where he got it.
Like you, there is a point in time where, it's almost as if training, right? Training for the playoffs for a close game, because Jordan did that a lot, but Jordan also hit Paxson and hit Kerr for game winners. So he has to find the right balance between the two. And maybe this, what we're discussing right now is sort of him filling it out, or Quinn telling him to fill it out. So when it becomes crunch time and the game actually matters, the difference between going home or moving on and around, he's ready for it.
Here's what I want to see. And I actually reached out on Twitter to Brian Priest from the Home Court Press podcast and asked him what he thought about this. And he and McCade on their podcast actually discussed this a little bit. I want to see Jordan Clarkson in finishing these games. I mean, to me, especially like a game like the Golden State game, I understand defensively you're going to give up a lot. If you're taking Royce O'Neal out of the game and you're putting Jordan Clarkson in there, you're playing smaller ball. You're going to give up some buckets. I understand that, but you don't have a chance to get back in the game if you're not getting buckets. There's no one on the team I would rather have out there to get a bucket than Jordan Clarkson. The dude is playing out of his mind this year. I want to see him out there, and I don't know why they haven't at least tried it, because it just seemed that Golden State game, they needed a spark. They needed someone to step up and take ownership of that game and lead that team to a win. Earlier on, what we weren't seeing, and I know this happens with teams a lot, like you don't just always have your lead guy making the big plays down the stretch. You got role players who are going to step up big. It happens with every team. You see it with the Lakers all the time. We saw it with Jordan back in the day. You just said he would kick it out to Kerr and Paxton, and he would make those big. He would trust his teammates to make the plays. Earlier on in the season, we were seeing other Jazz teammates making big plays. It wasn't just Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell was actually finding these guys wide open at times. Like Royce O'Neal has made some big buckets. To me, I want to see Jordan Clarkson get in there and get his chance to do it, because dude's a freaking spark plug, man. He's an instant bucket. And if he doesn't get it, he's going to come back. He's going to get a tip in, or he's going to come back down the next trip and get a bucket.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I wonder, like I say, I'd always love to be in Quinn's brain. Maybe that's something they're saving for the playoffs and they're practicing on hard, and you'll see it intermittently when games don't matter, right? Because you don't want to show too much, right? And the Jazz have had the fortune of having an epic start to the first half of the season, where they really haven't had to pull out all the defensive strategies or even offensive strategies, really, game plans, plays, etc., because they've just been annihilating everyone. So in that way, they're ahead of the rest of the league because they haven't had to show their hand as much, but also you haven't had to play your hand as much, which is also sort of a difficult thing. You don't really know how it's going to work, and you haven't used it during game scenarios, so the comfort level isn't quite there. I gotta think that that's coming somewhere down the line, also depending on the matchups, right? I mean, while Jordan Clarkson is a spark plug and typically his offensive output can overcome his defensive limitedness, if that's a word, you can't just totally give away the farm, so to speak, on the defensive end. If the matchup isn't there, the matchup isn't there, right? Where you can at least break even, so to speak. But I'm with you. I mean, he's a bucket getter. That's what he is. That's, Mr. Buckets, we should call him, because that's what he does.
Here's the thing. Here's one thing I didn't realize. And honestly, go check out the Home Court Press podcast. It's outstanding. We had Brian on a couple weeks ago. It's a fantastic show. And they were discussing it. I didn't realize how much of a defensive liability it is to have Clarkson and Donovan on the floor at the same time. Like, I didn't realize the amount of defense you're giving up, which actually is probably the reason why Clarkson's not out there. But I still maintain, like, you have to find a way to get a basket. And I understand late in games, crunch time, defenses tighten up quite a bit. So it'll even be harder for Clarkson to get a bucket. But he's the guy I trust more than anybody right now, who can go out there. If you just say, hey, man, we need a basket, we need points right now, he's going to find a way to do it. And we've even seen his passing ability. So to me, it's worth a shot. And it's better to discover if it works now rather than later on in the playoffs. That, again, I don't want to keep harping on it, but that Golden State game was a perfect opportunity to throw him in there and see if we can get a charge and get something going. That was just, you could not have asked for a better opportunity to test that out. Things are going south. Jazz are playing like garbage. No intensity whatsoever. Let's get Clarkson out there. Let's have him finish out this game. See if he can make something happen. So it's a little perplexing to me, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. One thing I do want to mention, and we sound like a broken record, along with all of Jazz fans right now. But man, when Rudy Gobert leaves the game, I'm trying to think if it's always been this way. He leaves the game and the other team goes on a run. That's how important he is. But man, I don't ever remember him being this dominant. This has got to be his best season ever, right?
It feels like it. It totally feels like it. And even, I was so happy for Rudy and proud of him in that Celtics game, just knocking down free throw after free throw after free throw. Like, and his percentage is ticked down a little. I mean, he's essentially a 60% free throw shooter, 63 for his career. But if he at least has the confidence to be in there and know that we can get even 3 out of 4, right? It helps us in ways that are you'll never see on paper for a coach, you know? And I just kept being like, he doesn't want to give it up. He'd get the rebound. He'd be like, come get me. And I was just like, wow, that like he's either filling it or his mind is right, you know, in that last 48 seconds. So yeah. And on the defensive end, yeah, maybe we have undermeasured, or at least it appears that way currently, the way the second unit is playing. We've undermeasured his impact on the game, if that's even humanly possible. I don't know, because I think we've walked the line of saying it's significant. Like, you know, we at one point when we asked each other, who would we rather have, Donovan or Rudy? We both went with Rudy. So, I mean, that should tell you something, right, of what we think of him, but it feels like it's even greater.
It's insane. I mean, Derek Favors, who is a good defender, looks like he goes in the game and it feels like we just don't play any defense at all because Rudy's that good. And it's not even, and I don't need to explain this to anyone listening to the show because you all know this because you watch Jazz basketball and you see it. But to the greater NBA fan who doesn't watch a lot of Jazz basketball, it's not just what he does. It's not just blocking shots. You know, it's not just the fact that he can get 2 blocks on one play or he can, you know, his recovery is insane. He just makes every opponent scared to do anything. He takes away so much of what they're trying to do just by being on the floor that it unsettles them. That's why, and I love Doc Rivers. I respect him a lot. But when he says Ben Simmons is he's the runaway defensive player of the year this season, what? What are you talking about? Rudy Gobert, I mean, there's not even a question at this point. There's not even a second place as far as I'm concerned. Rudy should be the runner-up and the winner of this thing. That's how dominant he's been defensively. And I mean, and it will never happen, but I really believe his effect on the game and what he does for his team, he should absolutely be considered an MVP candidate. Just in the name most valuable player. I don't know, other than maybe LeBron James, I don't know of another player that gives more value to his team.
Yeah, you're right. Although I will say, I feel like you're underplaying Ben Simmons a little bit.
No, Ben Simmons he's great defensively.
Acumen is extremely high as well, but it's just, I mean, he also has Joel Embiid, who's really good defensively too, and that goes unnoticed. Whereas, I mean, to be frank, look, Royce O'Neal isn't Ben Simmons, and Joel Embiid isn't Rudy Gobert on the defensive side of the ball, but he's a hell of a lot closer to Rudy than Royce is to Ben, if you get what I'm saying, you know? And I do worry, like, with what you just hit on, and it's always been this way. And we've talked about it over the years since Rudy's become the Rudy we know. We've talked about it a lot. That, and I don't think this is an actual conscious thing, right? But it feels like, and I think the reason you see a major drop-off is the players are so used to having Rudy behind them that they're not uber concerned about getting beat on defense.
Creates bad habits.
Right. You know, but then you have Derek Favors and you're suddenly like, where did who go? Oh, dunk. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, so that needs to tighten up too. Like, if you're looking at things for the Jazz to tighten up, it's on ball defending your man and even off ball defending. But most importantly, don't just get blown by. And this is all of them. Even Connolly, who's in years past as a tier 1 point guard defender, seems to be struggling and getting beat off the ball quite a bit. So I'd like to see that tighten up.
Yeah, I agree with that. Man, I would love if the Jazz could get another big man and we could see Favors and Gobert together again on the floor. Because those are some fun. I mean, we had some heated debates, not between us, but with Jazz fans have had heated debates about whether Favors and Gobert could coexist on the floor at the same time. I remember that when the Jazz had their patented early season slump, and then all of a sudden they turn it on. It's like, oh, we forgot all about that. But there was a time when we were wondering if that could happen. I would love to see them on the floor together again because I think that's a formidable duo right there. Probably not going to happen, but just a pipe dream. Okay, let's run through these next couple games. Let's see. We will go up to the next four. We'll go to the next four, and that'll bring us up to the next time we get in studio to record. Tonight, Washington Wizards. I'm not sure. I think this is probably the makeup game that they missed with the Wizards before. Then tomorrow at the Raptors. Then Monday at the Bulls. And Wednesday they came home against the Brooklyn Nets and everyone's favorite ball hog, James Harden. This is going to be, it should be an easy stretch. The next three. We'll see what happens. Wizards are playing better, though. But who knows, man? I mean, it's a road trip. You're on the road. Who knows what can happen? Let's go through this, though. What do you see them doing in the next four?
I mean, so again, I don't want to put too much weight on what we saw at Boston, but it's trending in the right direction. The effort is important here, right? They're not good enough to not try. They're not Golden State, although that was a debate earlier in the year. So maybe
it was
how time flies and things change. So we're going up to the Nets game. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have them going 2-2. I mean,
2-2.
Yeah. Like I worry that a back-to-back Wizards, tough team. They'll run you around. And then the Raptors, the Raptors are just a team that I worry about. I don't know why.
And then
the Nets.
Here's
so I got them winning Grizzlies and Jazz, although the Grizzlies are starting to come on too. A lot of teams in the East are starting to come on. Grizzlies are one of them. I got them going 2-2. You don't tell me 4-0, man.
No, I'm not going 4-0, but
you're going 3-1.
You know what?
I see.
I just want to say I'm much more comfortable now, James, because now you've got back into your role of being the pessimist. Last week you had them going 1-2 in the next three, and I had them going 2-1. I was right, although it could have easily you could have easily been right. And now you're having them go 2-2 against a team that has lost 5 in a row, a team that has lost 6 in a row, and a team that is in the 9 seed, or right now looking at like they're going to be in the play-in game in the Eastern Conference. So who have 5-5 in the last 10. So I just feel more like this is more our groove, where you are finally back into being the pessimist that you are, because it felt a little. I mean, I loved it, but it felt a little awkward that you were like, man, they're just so good. There's nothing I can say right now.
They had the Raptors had a lot of people in COVID protocol. Don't let that 6 game. I mean, their coach was out, right? Like, let's remember that before we be too hard on my pick here. And I think if my memory serves me, and granted, it's the day after St. Patrick's Day, corned beef, cabbage, and a lot of other things have been put into my body over the last 24-hour sequence.
Wait, I got to ask, were you drinking Irish whiskey or regular whiskey?
I don't drink the Irish whiskey, lad.
Why?
It's not my thing.
Why?
I only go American bourbon.
Oh, I do too, but I didn't have any Irish whiskey in the house, so I didn't have any. But man, Irish whiskey it's good, man. It's just kind of, there's not much flavor, It's kind of
I have a very special bottle that my mother brought me from, is it St. James Gate? The one for Jameson? I think it is. Maybe that's Guinness. And it has my name on it, and it's very nice, and it's supposed to be very special. And I was thinking yesterday, like, maybe I'll just drink this once a year on St. Patrick's Day. And then I open the cupboard and I say, there's old comfort. Yeah. She's in me, like I'm ready. And so no, I did have a Guinness though. I had a Guinness, but no, American bourbon.
Again, kind of tasteless and kind of like, yeah, I mean, I don't mind Guinness. I like it. I drink a lot of it sometimes when I have it, but it's just not real, I don't know, not real flavorful.
It's low alcohol content though.
Oh, is it?
You can drink a lot of Guinness. That's the beauty.
That
of it.
Explains a lot, actually. I won't get into
it. It's a meal.
Yeah.
It's a meal in and of
it's
itself.
A meal.
2-2, man. Losses to the Raptors and Nets.
I'm going 3-1.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously.
Mr. Optimism. Sunny day.
Mr. Realist. That's what I am. I'm Dr. Realism. And obviously the loss is going to the Nets. because the Nets are good. They're good. I mean, honestly,
they might be the biggest threat, right? What do you think of them signing Blake Griffin?
I don't like, I mean, I like it for them. I hate it for, like, it kind of feels like this is what the Lakers used to do, you know, or the Spurs, you know, when they got LaMarcus Aldridge back in the day. Like, it just feels like, yeah, of course, man. The rich get richer, and the small markets just kind of, we're fighting just to stay afloat at this point, you know, even though
we get Ilyasova over here, we really need him. Yeah. Like, oh, you're picking up Blake Griffin. We'll see the Griffin and we'll match you with Ilyasova.
We got Urson.
How you like us now?
We got Urson. Yeah. We'll get to the finals and you face the mighty Urson Ilyasova.
With a name like that, he must be a warrior.
But honestly, for the Nets, I really like that because you're getting Blake Griffin. He's not what he used to be, obviously, and he doesn't need to be on that team. In fact, it'd be a detriment if he was what he used to be, I think, because then there's just not nearly enough touches, but he's kind of in his waning years. And I think now he's a perfect role player for that team who's still very good and can turn it on when he needs to. Right now I like them to win the title this year. I don't know who can beat them.
It's hard to argue against it. I mean, don't forget they got DeAndre Jordan. That's half of Lob City right there. They have chemistry as well. Even when he comes in on a second unit, if DeAndre is not in foul trouble, I mean, it'll be wild because I see him playing center.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, or Durant playing center and him being the foreman. And that's just a Harden, Kyrie, Durant, and Blake Griffin. Even as injury riddled as he is, you still got to respect him. You know what I mean? You can't get that out of your brain. You saw that as a player in the NBA. You know what he's capable of. Yeah, I think you're right. If I had to put money down today, injuries, you know, taken out of the equation, it would be the Brooklyn Nets.
I mean, they're tearing through everybody right now. They've won 6 in a row. 9 of the last 10 they've won. They're tearing through everybody. It's just, I'm kind of pissed at Houston though, because you know, when Darren Williams pulled his stunt back in the day, we didn't ship him off to the Lakers. You know, like we didn't let him dictate where he goes. But James Harden creates this disaster in Houston and then says, I want to go to the Nets. And they just like, okay, have fun. Thanks for everything you've done. What do you know, man? You make him go to the Cavaliers. You don't send him to the freaking Net. You don't let him go where he wants to go. What are you doing? Pisses me off.
I mean, how long does it take to sort of repair his image? Because right now, I was watching their game on Monday or Sunday. He had 9 assists like 2 minutes into the second quarter. He was just like driving and like boom, boom. And I was like, man, everyone complains about him shooting. Maybe it was that bad in Houston. Well, because you put a pretty good couple players around him and he's averaging 9 assists. It really harkens back to the old Oklahoma City days. Like, know your role, willing to play your role. That'll be the big thing with Blake Griffin. You know, if he can come in, and I think he will, because he knows the pecking order. But egos are egos, and I'm as all pro athletes have big ones. If he can fit in, yeah. I mean, I don't even know if the Lakers with Anthony Davis and all their solid role players. I've been on the Laker bandwagon the whole season, but man, they've taken them off as far as I'm concerned.
It's hard to bet against the Lakers, but I just don't think they have enough pieces. I mean, the Nets they don't have their LeBron, but they have their Anthony Davis, you know, and Durant. Yeah, like the level of talent they have on the Nets is insane. I was so pissed when I saw that Blake Griffin was going there. Made me so mad.
Can Anthony Davis defend Durant? I mean, that would be an interesting matchup because he's pretty agile. If there's any one player who can provide a formidable defensive threat to Kevin Durant, I mean, I would have to think it's Anthony Davis. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because then you got Kyrie Irving, you got James Harden, you got Blake Griffin. Like, it doesn't matter.
And then LeBron takes all of those 3 away. Just because he's so angry at Kyrie.
Even at 36.
You know, don't forget that. That'll never be forgotten.
That's true. Okay, we have talked a lot of Utah Jazz basketball. we got to move on because we are running short on time and it is March Madness. This is Dog and Deuce. We are on Cape Powder TV and Backcountry TV, as well as over on the YouTube at youtube.com/DD on sports, as well as the podcast, man, is everywhere. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, and a bunch more I'm missing. I can't even remember off the top of my head. Anywhere you are on the internet, you can find us. Let's move on to March Madness. First four is tonight. I tweeted out, and I was curious to see what people were more excited about, a regular season Jazz basketball game or the first four. It's Jazz basketball, of course. I mean, just...
Is it, though?
It should be. It should be. With this season, absolutely. And the product that college basketball is, it's just not good. If we're talking tournament, I can understand maybe if people are... I'm still going Jazz, but I can understand. But the first four, it's like, okay, who cares?
Well, there's a really interesting one. I mean, I'm uber interested in Michigan State UCLA.
That'll be a good game. That'll be a fun game.
Because of Izzo, and if they get in, and they beat, 3 weeks ago, they beat like 2, 3, and 4 in the rankings, and people thought, wow, okay, Michigan State's back. Honestly, I'll flip back and forth. It's neither one or the other. I mean, if the Jazz don't show me effort, I could be watching a lot of college basketball tonight,
Yep,
so,
true.
And also, we missed it last year.
I know.
I didn't miss the Jazz. I mean, there was a delay, but I saw them play in the playoffs. I did not see the tournament, right, at all. And it's sort of why I'm not like, summer's almost here. Soon the azaleas will be blooming. Man.
Like it's
a green jacket will be donned.
Yep.
And life will be back on track, hopefully.
St. Patrick's Day was here. The weather is warm again, even though we had no snow. And now it's tournament time. I mean, this is when life kind of springs back, is what it feels like. So
take out the golf clubs.
Yeah. Break out the golf clubs. It's time, man. So rather than go through every one of our bracket or every pick we're going to do, let's just do for the first round. Let's just go who you got, BYU or whoever wins MSU, UCLA, and who do you got, Utah State over Texas Tech?
I got Utah State losing in the first round of Texas Tech. Chris Beard, defense, it's Texas Tech. I wanted to pick them, but I didn't. And look, I think if BYU plays UCLA, they win. But I think if they play Michigan State, they lose. And unfortunately for them, this is a year. If I was BYU, I would have rather been a 7 seed. Not just because of the opponent. It's unique where you have to prepare for both teams until today. At least if you were a 10, you would know who you're playing.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so, that's how I got it. They play UCLA, they beat them. They play Michigan State, they don't.
So you don't.
What about you?
I'm guessing you don't have BYU going very far then.
No.
So even if, would you have them getting past the second round?
No.
Yeah, me neither. Okay. This is a homer pick. Love seeing little brother do well. I got the Aggies beating Texas Tech. Probably not the smartest pick.
Woo.
But that's just pure homerism where I want to see my little brother do well, Let's get you in
some more brackets that I'm in. Come on, buddy. Like, let's do it.
And I have BYU winning their first game, but then losing to Texas in the second round.
So no matter who they play, if they're playing Michigan State, you're not going to pop in and change that?
I don't like this whole idea where the first four are not in the bracket. It's stupid because you don't really know how to prepare. And I understand, there's 60-something picks that you got to pick. So no one should be pouring over every single one. But it's a little frustrating that I don't even know who they're going to play.
Right. That's why I think it's a
annoying.
huge disadvantage. I would have rather been a 10 seed if I was BYU. Whatever. And it's weird. Is it always a 6 versus 11? I feel like it changes.
No, I think it is. And I don't know why. Why are they, if they're playing in, how are they not a 16 seed? If they have to play to get into the tournament, I don't get, and I understand, a lot of unexpected teams that win their conference tournaments and that gets them in. But it's just, why isn't an 11 seed is playing in? That's stupid. I don't understand, but there's a lot about college sports I don't understand.
I think it's because, if they were in, they would be ranked that high.
Yeah.
You can't say Michigan State's going to be a 16 seed if you're letting them in, because if they're a 16 seed, they're not getting in.
True.
You know what I mean? So I think that's why, like, that's probably where they have the difficulty of keeping people in or out. I don't know. Why am I trying to defend the NCAA? That's just stupid.
But like, not the best position to take.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. I think if they play UCLA, they win. If they play Michigan State, they don't. And so that's one I'm watching. Like, I'm going to have to be proactive in my bracket, even though it only will get me 1 point.
Yep. All right.
Sweet 6 the difference this year.
Sweet 16. Let's go to the Elite 8 because I don't want to go. It's going to take forever and we're running short on time as it is. Let's go Elite 8. Who do you got in the Elite 8?
And I want to be clear. This is not locked in for me. This is thought process. Like, it's still
TikTok. Man, you are taking this so seriously. You really want on that wall of fame.
I don't feel comfortable. It's not seriousness. I feel stupid. When I look at my bracket, I feel dumb.
But you know what? Here's the one thing I have noticed. Everyone is kind of feeling that way. And especially this year. I think it's that way normally. But I'm seeing people put their stuff up on Twitter, on Facebook and everything. And everyone's like, please don't make fun of me. Please don't make fun of me. You know? And I'm feeling the same way. In fact, my bracket, I am either a super genius, which is probably not the case based on my track record, or I have the worst bracket in NCAA tournament history. It's Fair one enough. Of the two.
So here's my Elite 8. If we're going Midwest region, I got Illinois beating Houston.
Let's see. Okay.
East region, I got Michigan losing to Florida State, and then I have, but that to get to the Elite 8, and then I have Alabama beating Florida State.
Okay.
And then I have Gonzaga and Iowa coming out of the West in the Elite 8, and I have Gonzaga beating them, which I mean, we talked off air. I know they're good. I looked at their stats. I watched a few games. It's just hard for me to trust those boys from Spokane.
Same.
It really is. And then in the South, I have Baylor, Ohio State, and Ohio State coming out of it.
We are similar with the West and the South. So let's see. You start with these. I'm going to go East. I have Texas and Florida State. And that's because I had Michigan. I had LSU as a little bit of a again, super genius or complete moron over here. I had LSU as a little bit of a Cinderella story getting to the Sweet 16 and beating Michigan. But who knows? You know, that's probably not very smart, but you never know.
Right?
I had to take some chances here. So I got Florida State beating LSU in the Sweet 16, getting to the Elite 8, and Texas taking down Florida State in the Elite 8. I wanted a Big 12. I actually kind of manufactured this. I had to do some tweaking to get a Big 12 Elite 8 matchup between Oklahoma State and West Virginia, just because I wanted that. So I got West Virginia winning that one. And then I got the same as you in the West and the South. I got Gonzaga and Iowa, and I got Baylor and Ohio State. I have different ones winning, though. To get to the Final Four, I got Iowa taking down Gonzaga, and I got Baylor taking down Ohio State.
Nice.
So I have got, in the Final Four, I've got a 2 seed, a 3 seed, a 1 seed, and another 3 seed.
I got a 1, a 2, and a 2 and a 1.
Okay.
And let me just a little preview. As it currently stands, my championship game looks like a college football playoff championship game.
Same.
Not a college NCAA tournament.
Right.
That right there is cause for concern.
And to me, that's why I was looking at my bracket and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense, man. It's so stupid. Who do you have?
I got Bama and Ohio State, and then I got Ohio State winning as currently construed. If this goes through, we should cancel NCAA sports. It's over. Alabama and Ohio State playing for the college basketball national title, and Ohio State winning it.
No, thanks. None. I don't want to live in that world.
No doubt. What about you?
I have, it's more college football past, but I have Texas and Baylor in the championship game, with Baylor taking it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Dennis Lindsey and Jake Lindsey love you.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be, I would actually prefer yours over mine.
I would definitely prefer mine. I think yours has a much better chance of panning out than mine. But again, super genius or complete idiot over here. And
you're winning big or you're losing early.
I am, dude. And I tell you what, I'm not known to be a super genius. So Let's take that for what it's worth. Okay. That's our bracket. Everyone who is in our bracket tournament, we are super excited to kick this off, and we will keep you updated. We'll make sure everyone knows what's going on. A lot of trash talking going on. I hope so. That'll be fun. I want to see more confidence, though. Like, even if your bracket sucks and you know it sucks, who cares, man? Talk it up. Pump out your chest. Let's get some hubris going. I want to hear some smack talking. It's a lot more fun that way. Let's move up to some, I don't know. I think it's good news for the University of Utah. Larry Krystkowiak is finally out. Didn't think this day was ever going to come. I felt like they were really trying to hang on to him as long as they could. What is it about Utah basketball coaches since Rick Majerus, every single one of them started out really strong and then absolutely tanked? What is it? Why? I don't understand. It happened with Ray Giacoletti, happened with Jim Boylan, and it happened with Coach K. And I don't quite understand it. Coach K was the one that I actually thought had the most promise to continue it. But man, so many transfers over the years, so many issues and problems and rumblings, and I hear he's the nicest guy in the world, but he just didn't get it done, and it's kind of a miracle he kept his job for as long as he did. What are your feelings about this?
I mean, it's wild to me. Like, look, I almost feel like Mark Harlan was acquiescing to the fan base. The dude is 180 and 130. So he's that's a good win percentage considering how the last 4 seasons have gone.
Yeah, but that's mainly because he had DeLon Wright and Jakob Pertl and Kyle Kuzma. That's
mainly life. Like, true. What do you want? Like, he hasn't got those guys. But I'm just saying,
Jakob Pertl
transferred out.
Jakob Pertl is carrying a lot of weight with that one. I'll just say that.
Fair enough, but I mean, still 180 and 30. Like, that's pretty dang good considering a move to the Pac-12 and who you're going up against. I mean, he was part of that as well. And let's be honest, basketball hasn't met the threshold. Not even just Utes, but Pac-12 basketball is sort of become not that great. And they were once known.
I will say I have very little faith in Pac-12 basketball, and I don't have any Pac-12 schools going very far in my bracket because I don't have any confidence in them.
I got a couple upsets involving Pac-12s.
Oregon?
I got Oregon State pulling an upset.
Ooh, Oregon State. Well, they've done it already, so could happen.
I like that kind of fire. But I mean, so look, he's gone, and it always, it begs the question. It kind of bugs me because 2 seasons ago, people thought Kyle Whittingham should be on the hot seat, So this is this is the life of a coach. Why I would never want to be one, because I wouldn't have the patience that these guys do to answer this sort of question. And sure, all right, fine. We'll see how the next guy does. You know what I mean? I want stability. And if anything, Larry gave the program that from a coach perspective, maybe not in the influx of players going in and out, but I grew up in the Majerus days. I want a coaching staff and head coach to be there for a while. And if you do it right in college, you can and should be. I hear a lot of people talking about Johnny Bryant. I don't know why you would leave the Knicks if you're, I don't know why, because this is how I feel.
Money.
If he wanted to be a college coach, he would have worked his way up through the college ranks, right? Like, it's hard to go in my opinion, and I don't know these people, but it's hard for me to imagine being what I consider the peak, the NBA, being a coach in the NBA, and regressing back to college basketball.
Larry Brown did it.
That may be a rude way of saying it, but that's how I feel.
Larry Brown won a title, and then he did it. And he went
up.
He went up. Well, he
came back down to SMU and got his butt handed to him because he was paying players.
Well, yeah.
And then quit.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he quit everything he's ever done. So
I'm just saying, and Larry Brown is the exception. Ask Rick Pitino. He went down, he was down, went up, and he's like, well, maybe I don't want to. It's a different skill set.
It is a different skill set. You have more control over the players, honestly, if you're a college coach, because they're not professionals, but
you don't anymore because they transfer portal.
Because they transfer. It's basically free agency at this point, which is frustrating. And Utah fans know that well. I will say this. Nate DeHemroyd had a couple ideas, and I want to run these past you. So Johnny Bryant, which we talked about, Alex Jensen, he was a great Ute. I don't want to lose him on the
though. And I've heard, I was actually in my car a lot yesterday. So I heard one of the talking heads saying he would absolutely accept it because he interviewed for the BYU job. And I mean, maybe all those things are true. Again, I just think he's on track to be an NBA coach. Why wouldn't you do that?
You got to take the opportunities when they come up. And that doesn't mean you can't go to the NBA later. But I mean, getting paid more money as a head coach in college, I don't want to say it always comes down to money, but you and I were talking off mic about hypothetical situations where if money were thrown at us, we'd take it in a second. So maybe.
But I'm not making $900,000 a year.
Yeah, but
like,
man,
are you comfortable?
You want to double that though? You want to double that?
It depends what I'm angling for. I mean, if I'm angling for an NBA head coaching job, then no. I'm learning from Quinn Snyder. The Jazz are on fire. I'm probably going to be a hot market. The question is a hot person in the market. The question is, will the right NBA job come up for you? And I wonder too, it's funny because of all the heat Rick Majerus took at the end of his tenure. Why are we hearkening back to that just because of W's?
That's why. That's it.
Yeah, and if you're Mark Harlan, I mean, let's be honest. The way the Utah football program got to be where it's at was keeping one piece of the puzzle, Kyle Whittingham, and bringing in an up-and-comer who had nothing to do with Utah football.
It sounds like you are not happy with this firing of Coach K.
I mean, it's fine. It's fine. But I'm not sure if I was Mark Harlan, I would want a former Ute doing it. Because I'm thinking exactly like, we took Urban Meyer from Bowling Green. Well, granted, he was coming up,
right,
and kept one of the pieces, Kyle Whittingham, and then he passed it off, and Kyle Whittingham succeeded. I'm not sure I want to harken back to that legacy. I want my own pick, if I'm Mark Harlan, to stand on my own 2 feet and say I did it.
Could be.
I mean, if Alex Jensen, I mean, let's be honest, like the talking head I was listening to, if Chris Hill was the freaking AD. Like who hired Krystkowiak, like you don't think Alex Jensen would have been on the top of his list?
Right.
I mean, he lived through the Majerus era and he knows who Alex Jensen is. It's not like we had Mark Harlan who didn't know who Alex Jensen is. You know what I mean?
Well, it's just, I think, and I don't know, I'm just playing devil's advocate. College is such a different atmosphere. There's a culture at each school. And especially being a school in Utah, I think I can understand wanting to maybe lean on a guy who is familiar with the school, familiar with the culture, familiar with how recruiting would work. I can understand how that might be, especially in Utah, how that might be an important aspect of the job and why you might want to look for a guy who's familiar with that. I don't know. I have zero real opinion. I don't follow college basketball enough to know who great candidates would be. I only know the names that are around town or have been. So that's all I'm kind of going on. So I don't know. I don't know who he picks.
I mean, I should say, like, I would be stoked if either Alex Jensen or Johnny Bryant are named.
Right.
This is not a condemnation of their skill set. I just can't understand it from their perspective. Right.
We'll see.
For me, if I was in the NBA, it would be really hard for me to go to college. Like, you go from college to the NBA, not backwards. Typically,
it's a different. I mean, like you said, we've seen coaches who find their niche in the NBA or in college. Like you look at Krzyzewski. You know, he's never coached. He's coached NBA players in the Olympics, but he's never. I mean, I'm sure countless teams have been banging down his door to try and get him to come coach their team. You know, telling me the Knicks haven't at some point wanted him to come coach them, you know? So
6 years ago, he was about to be the Lakers head coach.
That's
in the
true.
Summer.
That's
you
true.
Remember that?
But where is he now? He's still at Duke, you know? So some people
and look
find
where
that
Urban
niche.
Meyer is now.
That's true.
Head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Which is, we haven't even talked about that, and which is something we'll get into. That'll be, see, I'm not sure Urban Meyer will be able to hang in the NFL. It's a tougher job. Look at Nick Saban, you know? So some coaches find that niche and they go for it. We have 3 minutes left. We got to talk about Dennis Lindsey real quick. The NBA did their investigation. You know, lots of people have looked at these allegations against Dennis Lindsey about making racial comments towards Elijah Millsap, and it didn't look like it held a lot of muster. I am very proud of the Jazz for taking it seriously. I think that's very important, especially in this day and age with everything we're dealing with. the NBA found that there was no merit to these allegations, which if the NBA is saying that in this day and age when the NBA is trying to be very proactive in social responsibility and these race issues, and they're trying to really make sure that they are stand behind the players. If the NBA is saying there's no substance there, there's no merit there, then I have pretty good faith that nothing nefarious was said.
Yeah, I mean, look, it is what it is, and they found it, and so you can have your own opinion, but nothing's going to change that the NBA found it that way. And like you said, they're taking Black Lives Matter and racial injustice and inequality very seriously. So if there were even a modicum or a hint of corroboration, I feel like it would have gone the other direction, which leads me to feel fairly safe that it was either a misunderstanding, he was angry or whatever, but it wasn't enough to be punishable, so to speak.
Yeah, which is very good news, especially considering the Myers-Leonard stuff. Like, the NBA does not need any more. And it would have been very easy to kind of just like, let's just get rid of this issue. We'll just kind of, say something. We'll make a big show of it, and we'll punish Lindsey and make him resign or whatever. It would have been very easy to go down that road and placate a lot of people. But the fact that they straight up said, there's just no merit, to me, that says that it was very baseless, totally baseless.
Truly.
So that's good news for the Jazz. Very good news for the Jazz. We definitely do not need any more of these issues popping up. It's been a rough time to be a Jazz fan when you think of all the social injustice that's gone down and the way that our fan base has been painted at times. And granted, it is a very vocal but very minority amount of people who are doing this, but it reflects poorly on all of the Jazz fan base, and we need to stop it while we can. So this is definitely good news. So we can move on. Dude, we are out of time, man, but we want to say we're thinking about Sean Bradley. Awful, awful, awful news. He's paralyzed for life, and it's just terrible. I mean, I was just heartbroken when I heard this. Just sad, man. Just sad. Anything you want to say on that real quick?
I mean, yeah, hit by a car while riding a bike, parents' worst nightmare. And even though he's a Cougar, his battle with Shaq is one I'll remember. And I hopefully science can catch up and he can walk again. But we're thinking about him and hope he does the best he can with the tough hand he's been dealt.
Yeah, that was terrible news. But that is going to do it for episode 360 of Dog and Deuce. Good luck on everyone's brackets. We'll be back next week. We'll be giving an update on the brackets, on our bracket challenge, see what's going on, and we'll be talking Jazz basketball. So join us then. In the meantime, let us know what you think of the show. Anything else going on in the world of sports, send us an email to doganddeuce@gmail.com. I'm Dog.
And I'm Deuce.
And we will talk to you next week.
Enjoy the madness.